everyone. Welcome to the first webinar of August. My name is Saurabh Bhaumik. I'm the Campus France Manager for Kolkata. And on the other screen, you can see my colleague, Ms. Shivani Chordia, Campus France Manager for Bhopal. We will be your hosts for the evening. Today, we are joined by two alumni, Ms. Kathy Saini, a recent graduate of Le Cordon Bleu, Paris. Kathy is a student of the Bachelor of Business in Culinary Arts, and Ms. Anupurba Roy, currently a financial analyst who studied a master in economics and public policy from Sciences Po Paris. Kathy, Anupurba, thank you for being with us today. Both of our alumni have been recipients of the housing subsidy from CAF. This is the Family Assistance Fund that all students are eligible for, and also the topic of today's webinar. Without further delay, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Shivani, who will run through a presentation detailing what exactly the fund is and how to apply for it in France. After the presentation, I will conduct a small simulation to show you roughly how much you can expect. This simulation is something you can check on the website even before you reach France, and it will show you, and I will show you how to use it today. After that, we will have a short Q&A session with our alumni, and they will share with you their experience of navigating the bureaucratic and administrative stuff and offer some practical advice. If you have any questions that you would like to see answered at the session today, please use the comment section on Facebook to list your questions, and we will answer as many as we can. With that, over to you, Shivani.
Thank you very much, Saurabh. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Shivani Chordia, and I'm the Campus France Manager for Bhopal. Like Saurabh said, I will take you through the CAF procedure. We will quickly start without spending too much time. I will start. I will share my screen so I can show you a PPT. I will take you through the CAF procedure. All right. So CAF, or Caisse des Allocations Familiales. So what is CAF? CAF, or Caisse des Allocations Familiales, roughly translates to Family Allocations Office or Family Benefits Fund. Now, it is a government body that helps families by offering different services and financial benefits and aids that go from childhood, creche, alt-garderie, education, family allowance, accommodation allowance, etc. So today we are going to look at housing aid or housing benefits that are provided, financial benefits that are provided by the government for housing in specific. So now, Caisse des Allocations Familiales, it gives you three types of aid for accommodation. So it could be allocation de logement social, which is the social housing assistance, the aide personnalisée au logement, that is the personal accommodation assistance, or the allocation de logement familial, that is the family accommodation assistance. So again, you can receive one of the three depending on your situation, depending on the place that you apply to, and multiple other criteria. But these three are essentially what you receive for accommodation. Now, eligibility. Who is eligible for CAF? The first piece of good news is that you need not be French to avail of this benefit, to avail of this help that is provided by the government. You can be a citizen of any other country, and provided you fulfill a certain set of criteria, you will be eligible to apply for CAF. Now, if you are a student, you may be eligible to apply for CAF, for housing assistance, that is, as long as you are already renting or co-renting your apartment. Second thing is that you are not the proprietor's direct descendants. That is, if the owner of the apartment or of the place, of the studio, whatever that it may be, they should not be your parents or your grandparents, and you have little or no means of financial support, because this is, at the end of the day, a form of social aid. Now, another important piece of information is that you can be a student who is living in an apartment. You could be somebody who is renting out a studio. You could be somebody who is living in student accommodation. You could be somebody who is living in a private student residence. You are eligible for CAF in all of these situations. It does not necessarily, you need not necessarily live in a particular kind of residence to avail of CAF. That is, like I said, you can be living in a studio apartment, your own apartment, co-renting a space, renting out a small room in a big house from a family. You could be doing any of that, and you would still be eligible for CAF, depending on the situation that is. However, one important piece of information is that if you are renting a space from a landlord, that is, if, or a landlady for that matter, if you're renting out a studio, you are renting out an apartment, anything that is not a student residence in particular, or even if it is a student residence, it's always a good idea to run this plan by your landlord or your landlady. It's always a good idea to let them know that you would like to apply for CAF, because when you apply, you will eventually have to provide a certificate, you will have to provide an attestation, and that attestation comes from your proprietor. You know, they will have to sign it, fill in certain pieces of information, etc. So it's always better for your landlord to be in the know, or your landlady. I mean, it's always better for your proprietor to be in the know. It's always better that they know that you will be applying for CAF and that they're okay with it, because they will essentially have to fill in a certain set of documents. So it's good for them to have an idea. Apart from that, like I said, you are eligible irrespective of your place. Now, before you apply, there are a certain set of documents that you need to have in place. To begin with, when you apply for housing aid, you can apply on their website, that is www.caf.fr. You will need your correct address, your housing manager's contact information. It could be your landlord where you're renting it from, or your student residence, or your agency, etc., and the amount that you pay in rent. Now, if you are not already receiving CAF benefits, you will also need, when you are leaving from India, now there are two sets of documents. One, when you are leaving from India, you will need your original birth certificate, apostilled and translated. This is where we tell our students that it is basically for this procedure that when we tell our students you will need your birth certificate apostilled and translated, it is for this, for CAF. It is a two-step procedure to get your document, to get your birth certificate apostilled. You need your original birth certificate. It will be stamped by the Home Secretary of the place where you were born, and later there will be a sticker on it. You will have to send it to the Ministry of External Affairs. Where you get a sticker from the Ministry of External Affairs, and after you have both of this, you have to translate it from a recognized place. For example, in India, you can get it translated from the Alliance Française. Another way for you to get your document apostilled, for example, is that you log on to this website, and they also have a list of authorized agents, and that is in a way an easy way to do it. You have for every city an agent has been noted out. You contact the agent and you ask them to get your document apostilled for you. Once apostilled, you have to get it translated. Apart from that, you will need, once you are in France, you will need your bank account information slip. So it's called a relevé d'identité bancaire, or basically an RIB. It's a small piece of paper which has all of your banking details on it: your name, the name of your bank, the name of your bank, the branch, the account number, your IBAN. Every other detail is on that piece of paper, and you will need this because when you apply for CAF, when you apply for housing aid, they basically need to have your bank details so they can transfer the amount to your bank account. So you will need your bank account slip for that. Then you will need your financial resources for the past 2 years. So if you're applying in 2020, you will need your financial resources of 2018 and 2019. And finally, if your parents are parents receive benefits, if they are benefit recipients of CAF, then you will need their registration number. You will need that CAF registration number. Now, this is not valid for most of us because our parents are in India. Now, before you apply, you have this procedure called simulation. You can go onto their website, and my colleague Saurav will actually take you through the entire procedure after this presentation. The idea is that you can estimate the amount, the aid that you will receive by going through with this procedure. You can get a rough estimate of the amount. Okay, of course, you have to remember that this is a simulation, this is an estimate. The actual figure of the aid that you will receive might always vary, but you will at least get a rough idea of how much you can expect. Sorry. Next is some certain pieces of information that you need to remember is that if your housing aid is approved, your parents will stop receiving CAF benefits for you. Which again, most Indian students, their parents are in India, so this does not apply to them. Second thing, like I said, is that you must not be related, you must not be a descendant of the landlord, of the proprietor. They must not be your parents or grandparents. The third thing is that the rental agreement must be made out in your name. This is very important. If you are 2 people or 3 people who are co-renting a space, make sure when you're applying for CAF, your contract, the lease or the agreement has your name on it as well. And another important point is your housing aid entitlement begins the month after you move in, which means that if you move in September, if you move to a place in September, you apply in the month of September, and your account is registered. Your file is registered with them in the month of September. You will start receiving benefits for the month of October, in all probability from the month of November. Of course, this is a norm. Things may vary from place to place and the number of files you receive, etc. But the norm is that you will receive it for the next month from the month after. And which is why we advise you to begin your procedure as soon as you move in, because it takes time for them to register your file. So the sooner you do it, the sooner your chances of getting that aid. Now, another important thing is that you need to provide documentary evidence. The list of required documents will appear on the last page of your online application. So you have to provide those documents. You can always post them. You can go there to their office and physically put it. If that office has a post box right outside the office, some offices in some cities have that as well. So you can actually put your documents in an envelope, put your name and things like that on it, and put it directly, physically put it in that box, or you can always post it. If you are a foreign citizen, you must be residing legally in France. What that basically means is that you should have your visa, your OFI, your paperwork, your passport valid and in place, etc. And before you begin your online application, like we said, you can estimate the amount of housing aid by going through the simulation section. Sorry. Now, your online application step by step. The online application is divided into 4 basic steps. One is the eligibility criteria, which is called condition d'accès, where you fill in all the information about your accommodation, some amount of personal information, etc. The second one is your legal agreement, which is called engagement. This is where you put in all your contract details, etc. Read this part carefully. The third thing is you enter your information, that is saisie. Okay, if you are already a benefits recipient and you have shifted your house or you have moved to another place, then this is where you make the modifications. If you are not already a benefits recipient, then you fill in information about your circumstances and accommodations, etc. And the last step is finalize your application. You confirm all of the application that you have put in. You confirm on that. You confirm the application, then you click on submit. And one important thing to remember is it's always a good idea to save it. Once they have received your file, they usually send you a mail, say with the receipt saying they have received it. It's a good idea to save it, to keep a soft copy, print it out, hard copy, etc. You never know when you might need it, so it's like I said, it's a good idea to always keep a copy, soft copy, hard copy, etc. Now, applying for CAF. How do you actually apply for CAF? You go onto their website. Like I said, it is www.caf.fr. On their website, you have this option that is faire une demande de prestation, that is apply for a benefit. You click on that. Then you have 2 options. It leads to 2 options. Vous êtes allocataire, vous n'êtes pas allocataire. Vous êtes allocataire means you are already a CAF benefit, benefit recipient. The other one is you are not a benefits recipient. Vous n'êtes pas allocataire. For most of you who will be moving to France for the first time, you will not be a recipient. You will not be a benefits recipient. So you click on that. After that, it will lead you to this page where you click on aide au logement, which basically means housing aid. Then another very important aspect is that for some reason, if you have begun your application procedure and for some reason something comes up, you cannot complete it on that particular day, it's not a problem. They have this excellent facility where you do not have to restart, you do not have to resume your application from scratch. You can pick it up from where you left it off. So you have this option over here which says reprendre une demande en cours, which basically means resume an application you have saved. So save every step when you are doing your application, which means that if for some reason you have to stop halfway through, you can always pick it up from where you left it. So make sure you save every step. Every time you put in information, save it. Now, if you are already a benefits recipient and you have moved to another city or you have moved to another place in the same city, etc., you need to give them the new, you need to update them that you have moved somewhere else. So you basically click on, again, you go onto the website, you go on to www.caf.fr. You will have the column Mon compte, which basically means my account. Under that, you choose the option of accéder, that is, you ask for access. After that, you put in your information, that is your postal code, your allocataire, numéro d'allocataire. Numéro d'allocataire is basically like a registration number that you will receive from them. Okay, it's like your registration number, so you will have it, you can put that over there. And usually it's not very difficult to find every document that you receive from them, from the CAF. The top left-hand corner usually has your numero, has your registration number, so you put that in. And then your birth date, and then in all probability it will have a PIN, a password, so you put that in and then you get access. One important thing, point to remember is that this website is in French. You can always translate it right at the top, you go via Google, or you can sit with somebody who speaks French to help you with the procedure. So far the website is in French, so that is something that even they also have an application. You can use the application, but either you can either translate it. For those who don't speak French, you can either translate it or you can take help from somebody. Or for those who speak French, well, it's not a problem at all. Now, another thing is things to remember when you're filling in information. At one point, it will ask you for your family circumstance. Now, if you are single, you need to remember that at one point, they will ask you personnes vivant à votre domicile, which basically means people living in your house. And the sub-point over there is nombre d'enfants et de personnes vivant également avec vous, which means number of children and people living with you. If the person that you are living with is not your spouse, is not a dependent, and is a co-tenant, in that situation, you will write 0. Whether you are living in a cruise accommodation, whether you are living in a private space, an apartment, studio, etc., this remains the same. Then next thing is entering your housing manager's information, entering information about your accommodation. Okay, so if you are living in a cruise accommodation, okay, it will ask you, vous êtes en résidence universitaire cruise. What that means is you are living in a university residence, you are living in a cruise residence. If you are living in a cruise residence, you select oui, which means yes. And then from the drop-down box, you select the name of your residence. For some reason, if the name of your residence is not visible, it's not a problem. You can select other, and then you manually type the name of your accommodation, of your residence. Now, if you are living in a university residence, if you are living in a student residence, which is not cruise, okay, you are living in a private student residence, it's still you still have an option where you say vous êtes en résidence universitaire cruise, which means are you in a student residence, in a cruise residence? So you say no, you are not. Then again you have the option of autre résidence. You select the name and you select the name. If for some reason again that the name of your residence is not available, is not visible for some reason, you have the option of choosing other from the drop-down box and typing in the name manually. If you are renting out an apartment or a studio from a proprietor, or directly from a proprietor or via an agency, then they will ask you for a certain set, they will ask you for some pieces of information. So make sure, for example, that if it is, they will ask you first of all, what kind of accommodation is it? Whether it is from a particulier, that means whether it is from an individual, whether it is from any agency, whether it is from social aid agencies, etc., because they have that as well, whether it is directly or through some. Basically, they will ask you pieces of information like whether you are directly renting it out from an individual agency, etc. Now, if you are renting it out from an agency, you have to remember that they have a registration number. Okay, it is like it is called numéro. It is called a CVA number. It is their registration number, and you will have to put that down over there. The website will ask you for that information, so you need to put that there. Now, after you have filled in all of your information, your financial information, your personal information, your address, etc., the last part of it is finalizing your application. So like I said, it's a good idea to save it, print your application as a PDF file, keep a soft copy, keep a hard copy. It's always good to have something with you. Second thing is you will need to submit the following documentary evidence. You will need to submit a certificate of residence signed by a housing manager if you are asked for one. This is precisely why you should, like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, why you should talk to your landlord or your landlady that you would like to apply for CAF. Keep them in the know. Second thing, if you are a foreign student, then a proof of identity, which is your passport, a valid passport, and like we said, a birth certificate. So an apostille and translated birth certificate. You apostille first, then you translate, because when you're translating, the apostille, sticker, and stamp also need to be translated. So always apostille first, then translate. Then if you are a citizen of an EC member state, which we are not, so that does not apply to us, and if you are a student from outside the European Union, then you will need your OFI. Like I said, your visa and your OFI, because they validate your presence on French soil. Now, if you are already a benefits recipient, you can submit it electronically. And even like I said, you always have the option of sending your documents in by post. Either you send it via post or you physically go to their office and you put it in that post box. That is a choice that you have to make. That is your choice to make. For any other information, you can talk to them, you can call them, you can write to them. They are fairly responsive. Choose the CAF office that is in which your residence falls when you're talking to them, when you're asking them for help, because they will be able to guide you the best. And after this, finally, the last step is the wait. This is a very important step, to be patient, to wait till you get it. Once you have applied, like I said, the norm is 2 months. That is, you will receive it in after 2 months. So if you have moved in September, you have applied in September, then they will register you. Once they have registered you, you will receive it for the next month. So in this case, October. From the month after October, so in this case, November. Again, this is the norm. Sometimes things may change. Sometimes they have a lot of files to look after, so you will receive it later still. But if you have applied in time, if they have registered your file, then for the most part, even if, for example, so if you have applied in September, your file has been registered, they have sent you a mail saying they have received your file, registered it, etc. at the correct time, and for some reason you haven't received it in November for the month of October and you receive it only in December. But at that point, if you have registered and everything is within the correct timeline, then you will get it backdated for that 1 month where it got delayed. And with that, we end this presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, for listening to our presentation today. And now Saurav will take you through the simulation procedure.
Thank you, Shivani. That was a very wonderful, informative presentation. Guys, we're going to do a little exercise now. What we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and instead of presentation, we're going to do it live. So we're going to use, say, a postcode in Toulouse, and let's see what happens. Of course, if you, Shivani, you can also suggest maybe a postcode that we can use where there are a lot of student residences. And then we'll try the simulation twice with different variables, and let's see how much the website says we can get. So please allow me to share my screen at the moment. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Is my screen visible, Shivani?
Yeah. Yes, yes, it is. It is.
Perfect. So this is the website where we will be applying. The website is caf.fr. Okay, very simple website. Unfortunately, this is one of those websites that has not been translated into English yet. So for example, the CVAC website and the MES services website, they're both in English, but CAF has still not has not gone that way. But don't worry about that, because even if you're not able to navigate your website, during your welcome week at the university, there will be representatives present from the CAF office who will be able to help you with the application. So the option that we are looking for here is this one that says Fair Une Simulation. So we click on that. Now here, the two main questions that they've asked, again, they will ask you this very same question when you're doing the file for real, is, are you already a benefit recipient or are you not? So vous êtes allocataire or vous n'êtes pas allocataire. So of course, for a first time student to France, you will not yet be a benefit recipient. So you will click on the second option. Now, which aid are you looking for? CAF is the Family Benefits Fund after all, so they have different types of aid. What we are looking for today is le logement, that is the housing. When we click on that, it will ask us that, do you understand what you need? Do you understand that this is just a simulation and it might be different? Of course, they will also ask you which information do you need to keep ready. One of the main pieces of information is your vos revenue personnel de l'année 2018, which means your approximate earnings for the year in 2018. But don't worry about that, because this is not actually compulsory to be supplied here. It is possible to skip it. And of course, you have to skip it if you were, for example, a fresh student who has not yet been working. So let's say that we have read the conditions and let's start. We will look for a postal code. Let's start with the postal code 34000. This is the postal code of main Toulouse, and we'll see what happens after that. So it is the first question they're asking is, what is your situation? Are you locataire, which means are you renting it? Are you subletting it? Vous êtes sous-locataire. Are you residing at a student residence exclusively for students, or are you residing in any sort of other residence? So for most people, it will be either 1, 2, or 3. Let's start with number 3, because most of you will be getting your student accommodation either through Studapart or a website like that, or through your own university the first time you go. Now, is the logement that you have, the housing that you have, is it given by Crous or not by Crous? We've noticed questions on Facebook asking whether, if you are a scholarship recipient or if you have already got a housing in Crous, are you still eligible for CAF? The answer is very much yes. No matter what your situation is, as long as you have your name on the lease, you are eligible to apply for this. So let's say that we got the accommodation privately and it's not from Crous. They will ask us now, what is the nature of your location, which is, are you residing in a foyer pour étudiants, which means housing for students, or in a university residence or cité universitaire, which is a very specific university residence in France, or are you residing in a student accommodation that is owned by a private party? So let's say that we are living in a student university accommodation. What is the contribution that you're paying for this accommodation? Let's pick a figure in the middle, maybe 450 euros. And now, what is your family situation? In most cases, everyone will write, of course, that you are living alone. So in that case, you will select vous vivez seul and your birth date, 7th February 1997, let's say. That's not actually my birth date, okay? I'm not that young. Okay, are you with child or not? No. Are you taking care of someone who is under 21? Are there anyone under 21 in your charge? So that's no, so I'll write 0 over there. And how many parents are you supporting in this residence? Remember, they're not asking you if you have parents, they're asking you, are these parents, are they being supported at this residence by you? So please select 0. Now, what is your professional situation? If you are working, and of course, since you will be applying for this within 3-4 months of going to France, actually, you should start working on this within the 2nd month only. I'm guessing that you will not have a job lined up. So for the first time you're doing it, you should say sans activité professionnelle, which means you're not engaged in a professional activity. And RSA is the other benefit that is given by CAF. Of course, you are not yet a recipient of the RSA, which roughly is actually the, how shall I say, the unemployment benefits. So of course, you're not a recipient of that, so no. And now, if you're not doing any activity at present, what is your current situation? So here, really, there's only 2 choices that should concern you. That is étudiant boursier or étudiant non-boursier. If you are a scholarship holder, you click on étudiant boursier. If you are not a scholarship holder, that is a scholarship given by the state, please select étudiant non-boursier. This is a question that actually has come up in the Facebook page today. But yes, this is a question that sometimes confuses people. Now, this is a question that you cannot escape answering, because remember, you see this little asterisk, blue asterisk, that means that this is a required question. However, this basically just means vous êtes rattaché financièrement à vos parents, which means are your parents supporting you or not? In most of our cases, Indian students going to France for the first time, of course, it's a very expensive affair. Yes, we will be supported by our parents. So please mention yes. When you mention yes, it will immediately ask you for another question. Now, this is a very financial question, and this is asking you whether your parents are paying tax on their property. Okay, on a sort of capital gains tax. Please select no. Vous bénéficiez actuellement de l'allocation logement. Now, this is precisely asking you whether you are getting the benefit at the moment. Of course, you're not, because you're applying for the first time. If you're applying for the second time, please select yes, but of course, right now you're no. And then this is the part of the question that deals with your, how shall I say, your salaries. Now, please be very careful about this. It's not asking your household income. Although if you were employed before you came to France, so for example, you were an engineer who was working for 3-4 years, you filed income tax in India, you have your income tax documents from 2018, please be sure to mention your salary here. Convert it into euro as best as you can. You can use Google for that and mention your income here. So the next time we will do the simulation, we will do it with a salary component. But for now, we're doing it for fresh students, and we will mention 0. Okay. I'm trying to explain most of what it means here. Some of these terms are going to be very exclusively French concepts. So in that case, we are going to be skipping over them, and it's perfectly fine to skip over them because there's no blue asterisks here, which means these questions are voluntary questions. They're not compulsory for you to finish doing, at least for the simulation. So I am assuming that I'm a student who is being supported by his parents. I'm coming to France for the first time, and I have not worked before this. I have come in straight from college. So my income is 0. And frais réel déductible, which means basically the income tax exemption, which in India would be 2.5 lakhs. So for you, if you're writing that, it would be around 3,400 euros. But for now, we will mention 0. Have I received any indemnity, for example, workplace accident or from Social Security? Of course, I'm going to mention 0. Allocation de chômage, which is unemployment benefit, basically doesn't exist in India, so we will write 0. Now, this will ask us, again, you will notice that the questions are specific to 2018 only. Here they're asking us, of course, how the precise nature of benefits that you have received, and you can find this information on your payslip if you are a working professional. But basically, pension alimentaire reçu, this basically means to your food allowance or anything like that. We will mention 0. We will mention 0 for all the other fields as well, because they do not really concern us at this moment, except the last one does a little bit, because this one says autre revenue, which means any additional income that you have received from outside your salary. So if your income tax file has some other income that is declared from income other than what you have received as salary or your main profession, please mention that here. Otherwise, mention 0. You can ignore the next question that pops up. That's a very specific French question. And now, vos charges et déductions 2018. Okay, so any deductions that were made in 2018, again, if you received any for food, 0. If you have ignore this question, this is again a very French legal question. CSG deductible, this means capital gains tax. So this only applies if you are actually owning property under your name. That's very, very rare if you're going to be a student. Most of the time it will refer to your parents. But again, remember that when all this salary information, everything, this does not relate to your household income. This only relates to your specific income. So feel free to write 0. And have you made any contributions to Social Security? In India, this would be the amount of PF that is being deducted from your salary. If there is on PF, of course, there are some voluntary contributions that you can make over and above the 12% that is deducted from your salary. So if you're making voluntary contributions as well, be sure to include that there. We'll do a little simulation later to see if that changes anything. But right now we'll write 0. And this is asking us if we have a military pension, or if we are basically, if we have been discharged from the military with certain benefits. Of course, we'll not take that. And then we continue. Déclaration de patrimoine. Now, patrimoine means heritage in France. And this basically asks if you actually own any heritage property. Please select no in both these questions. And voila. For the pin code that I've given, the amount of logement is coming to 86 euros. Okay, so this is roughly what you can expect if you were a student for whom the cases that I've mentioned were, yes, for example, I mentioned that I was a student who was born in 1997 and I was supported by my parents and I had no income, and I was, more importantly, I was staying in a university residence for which I paid around, I think I wrote 450 euros. So let's run this simulation again. And this time we will select a housing which we have found privately. Okay. But remember, your name must be on the lease. We had a question on Facebook today from someone who asked whether, if there's 3 students staying together, whether it's possible for all 3 students to get CAF. The answer is yes, provided all 3 of you are mentioned. Okay, on the lease, all 3 of you will be able to apply separately for your CAF and receive CAF for your portion of the rent. So we'll do the simulation again. This doesn't change. Vous n'êtes pas allocataire, le logement, okay. And then we understand how the simulation works. And then Shivani, let's try a postcode for where there are a lot of student residences.
You want student residences?
Just a postcode where a lot of students are living.
Yeah, a postcode for student. You can put 33400.
33400. 400. And this is
It's for this suburbs in Bordeaux, so it's called Talence, and that area has a lot of student residences.
Okay. But we will try a resident that isn't a student residence. Okay. So
This can also have private student residences, so you can choose.
yes, so we'll do that. So what we'll do is we'll select the first option, which is vous êtes locataire, which means I am renting a place. Remember the last time we chose this option, which was we are staying in a student residence. This time we're selecting vous êtes locataire. If you are subletting from someone else, please select the second option. Now, this, you can quickly see that the questions are different now. It's asking us what sort of house is this? Is this a studio, which means your living expense, your living area and your bedroom is kind of the same thing, or you have a proper apartment, or you have an entire house to yourself, or you have a room within a certain locality, which means, for example, within a hostel, if you are renting a room. Okay. Now we select a studio, an apartment, or a house. Okay. So we select that. Then let's say that we are staying with students from India who are, who are just like us. So I will use the example of the person who commented on Facebook. So I will write avec une ou plusieurs person, which means with one, other, or more people. This question, if you see meuble, this means that they're asking you whether the house is furnished. Now, in most cases, it will always be yes, because as a student, you are not expected to pay so much and buy your own furniture. So has this house been let out furnished? Yes. Again, the other reason we did this simulation two ways is so that I can introduce you to this question. Votre logement est conventionné, non conventionné, and you do not know. For now, if your landlord, if you can't reach your landlord, or you don't know if your housing is conventionné or non conventionné, and if you click on conventionné, it will show you the legal definition of conventionné. But basically it means that whether your housing is sort of rent controlled or not. Okay. So certain housing in France are rent controlled, usually in the middle of the city, where maybe their rents have a fixed ceiling. So if you don't know about this at the moment, it's perfectly fine. You can just select vous ne savez pas. Okay, moving forward. Now it will ask you how much you're paying and how many people you're living with. Okay, so let's say I'm living with y compris vous-même, so maybe 3 people, and indiquer le montant de loyer mensuel, so avec les charges. So with all utilities, how much are we paying? Let's say, because it's 3 people, let's put it on the little higher side. Let's say we're paying 700 euros. Again, now we are returning to the same sort of questions that we saw before. These questions, your family situation, your income, these will be common no matter how you do the simulation. So let's say again, we're living alone and apply the same birth date. So let's see if there's any difference. 1997. And do you have a child? No. Are you supporting anyone under 21? No. Are you supporting any parents at this location? No. Again, are you working? No, we're not working, and we do not have RSA benefit. Are we students who are receiving a scholarship or not receiving a scholarship? Again, let's say we're not receiving a scholarship. And are you supported by your parents? Yes. And okay, this one again is, have they got basically property? Have they made money from property? So no. And okay, are you receiving the allocation logement already? No. So this time, let's try putting in some sort of income that we've made. Okay, so in India, if you were, for example, earning 6 lakhs at your last job, you can possibly put in around 7,500 euros. Please use the converter on Google to do that, but right now I'm putting in an approximate income. I'm also going to put in the standard deductible in India, which currently, I mean, until 2.5 lakhs, there's no income tax. So I'm just going to put that in 3,400 euros. Everything else doesn't apply, so I'm going to leave it 0. Same thing over here. Deficit professionnel, basically if it's personal loss and land income or loss on land, sale of land, of course, I'm just going to leave it 0. Author revenue, let's say I haven't had any income out of salary, so I'm going to leave it 0. Pension alimentaire, 0. Pension alimentaire, okay, no, that, okay. CSG deductible is the housing, sorry, it is the, how shall I say? Is the capital gains tax. Obviously, I don't own any house, so 0. But here I will fill it in because it asks me what was your, have you paid anything for Sécurité Sociale? So in India, the pension fund, if you're contributing to pension, whether voluntarily or your employer is under the pension, how shall I say, the pension law, then yes, you will put that in. For now, I'll just put about 1,500 euros because that would approximately be what I'm paying for, how shall I say, for the pension, which is the 12%, that's provident fund, exactly, sorry, provident fund that's being deducted from our salary. So I assume for someone who's making about 6 lakh, it will be about 1 lakh, about 1 lakh 60 or something like that. So I'll put in 1,500 euros and let's continue. Obviously, the question here again is no, because this is asking about heritage property, whether we currently own any heritage property. So no. And voila. Oh, for some reason, so we have currently received 87 euros, which is not very much different from what we tried last time. But this again will go quite up quite a lot depending on how much you're paying, whether you're sharing with someone or whether you have put in an income or not. So here, the fact that I was paying a higher, how shall I say, a higher rent was kind of adjusted by the fact that I was sharing that rent with 3 people. And also I had income to declare in 2018. So that's it. This is where I'm going to end the simulation. I'm going to invite you all, please go on this website, use this page as much as possible, because this is something that you can go try even without going to France. So you can try it here and get a rough idea. If you want to know which area you might be living in, please refer to the admissions letter that you've received that will have the 6-digit PIN code of your university in France. You will most likely be residing somewhere close by. So now I'm going to invite our alumni Kathy and Anupurba to introduce themselves, and then we'll try and pose a few questions to them to find out about their own experiences with this procedure. Let's start with Kathy first. Kathy, could you introduce yourself for our viewers?
Hi everyone, I'm Khyati Saini. I was studying in Le Cordon Bleu, Paris. I was a Bachelor of Culinary Arts and Business Management. So, but the course was mostly related to managing restaurant kitchen, and it also gave me an opportunity to work in Ritz Paris and Intercontinental Paris Le Grand. And so, it was more oriented with international students as well as cuisines. And I've been living in France for about 3 years, and but due to the COVID, I just came back, and that's pretty much it.
And Anupurva, I understand you are a financial analyst who's currently living in France.
Yeah, that's correct. So I came to France in 2017 and I started my course in 2017 at Sciences Po. So I did a master's in economics and public policy. And yeah, it was a great experience for me. And in fact, I was introduced to my current employer through professors at Sciences Po. So yeah, I would highly recommend it if
So,
anybody is considering it.
because both of you are from Paris, which I understand is going to be the destination for about 40% of our students, if not more. Now, Paris is quite expensive. So, if you don't mind, how much rent were you guys paying?
In my,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
It's all right.
Okay, so for me, I rented private accommodation. So I didn't stay at a student residence. I rented a studio right from the beginning. In fact, I still live in the same place. And I paid 775, which is quite standard for a
Paris and
studio
relative
this
to the
size in Paris. But of course, I mean, when you're coming from India, like it is quite expensive. But yeah, but and it's quite small. It's a 20-meter square studio, but yeah, pretty basic.
How much did you get back from your from CAF?
So for me, so the amount of CAF really varied because in my first year I got around 150 euros, and then in my second year I got around 116 or something. I'm not really sure on the basis of what they reduce the benefit, but in fact I reapplied for CAF this year as well, because I mean you backdate your revenue declaration. So I mean I declared my revenues for 2018 when I was still a student, and for some reason this year I've been getting 300 euros for CAF. So I mean
That's almost
it's
half.
really, yeah, so it's really unpredictable, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Kathy, what was your experience?
So in my first year, I was sharing an accommodation with two other people. So the rent was about, it was a private accommodation. So the rent was about 2100 because I was living in the 15th. And so it's a very expensive area. It's right where the Eiffel Tower is. So my house was around like 10 minutes walk from the Eiffel Tower. So it was really expensive. I was paying 2100, so it was around 700 per person, around that. But I was, because it was a rental, it was kind of like a vacation rental, and I wasn't really familiar with the process, so I could not apply through CAF in my first year, like I was when I was studying there. After that, in my second year, I moved out and I lived in a studio, which was in the 16th, which is, I mean, still an expensive area. I mean, it was right at the border of the Boulogne-Billancourt and 16th. So I was living there, and it was again a 20-meter school, same as Vancouver. But the rent was quite expensive. It was around 1200, but I managed to get from CAF around 200 per month. It varied. Sometimes I used to get 215 as well, but on an average, if you take, it was 200 a month, which was still very helpful because of the rent I was paying. Just like one thing that I would like to mention is that being with the landlord, being on good terms with the landlord really helps, because when I was still applying with my CAP, in my second, third year, my landlord really helped me a lot, because first of all, the language, especially when the documents the landlord has to send, it really helps you, because half the stuff my landlord did for me, she was really helpful. She was like, okay, I understand that you're in a new country, you don't really know how it works, so she only posted the things for me. And when she posted about like 1.5 2 months, 2.5 months around, I started getting the backdate revenues, and I was renting, so this was really helpful.
Okay. And how would you guys rate your experience? Like, how easy or not did you find it to navigate it for the first time?
For my
Yeah, go ahead.
for my first time, it wasn't, because it was really tough to know
Yeah.
it, because I barely knew French when I was there. And again, like if you have a French friend, just I would really say like sit down with them and do it, because I couldn't do it because it was really hard to just navigate through all the procedure. But once you get the like you know the language, and you can just talk about it with your friends and people who've applied. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind sort of things. Like some things you know, some things your friends know. So you're just okay, applying it together. And then again, if you have a French friend, just hold on to that French friend until you get your administration solved, because this is a problem. It is really a problem because you don't know French, and like again, reading French is another thing, right? Even if you can converse, so just make a French friend first, and then you can like look on to the rest thing.
Anupurva, yes. What was your experience the first time around?
So I mean, I agree with Kathy. I didn't speak much French when I came here either. So I mean, I wouldn't say that the experience itself was difficult. It was just that it seemed difficult because I mean, the site was in French and the process seemed kind of unfamiliar. And we'd heard all of these things about French bureaucracy being really slow and winding. When I look back at it, actually the process wasn't that difficult at all. But I mean, there were a few hiccups. So for me, I remember the site allows you to upload your documents, but for some reason I wasn't able to upload my documents. So I sent a paper, a photocopy of my identity documents and my postal birth certificate and the translation. I sent it by post to the CAF offices, and I mean it wasn't something super difficult, but of course it's just an additional step. I mean, it's not as easy as clicking a button and uploading stuff onto the site. And yeah, but and also I think that this has already been mentioned, but you receive your numero d'allocataire by post after you log on to the site for the first time and you put in your details. So it's a bit of a delayed process. It doesn't happen like just like that. It
Immediately.
but they send you emails at every step of the thing at your registered email address. So every time you upload a document or you fill in a detail or anything, they send you an email. So I mean, that's kind of helpful to sort of keep track of what's happening. And another thing is that, of course, most students will be joining in September, and they will be going through this whole process in September. But something to keep in mind is that you need to redeclare your resources around December, so basically before the beginning of the new year, in order to continue to receive benefits in 2021. So it's not according to the academic year, it's according to the calendar year. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yes. So one final question to Kathy first. If you had one tips or tricks that you wanted to share with people who are coming after you, what would it be?
Firstly, just know basic French. I mean, I thought I knew basic French, but when I went there, it was a totally different scenario. This is one thing where you can read it, but there's one thing you can converse. So I would say at least just have a basic French knowledge that you can at least understand what they're saying in lumps or manner. And the second thing I would say that just have your paperwork crystal clear about every document that you think that you might need, because French bureaucracy, it's you need papers everywhere. Get photocopies already with you, because that is also a problem. I mean, if your university has printout machines, which is perfect, but sometimes like you don't have the time to go to university and like print it out. So just have a few photocopies with you at handy, because you might be able to send it like by post, by just have it in print with you. Then that would be my recommendation for sure.
Sorry, my mic.
Anup,
Thank you.
thank you, Kathy.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, hi. So from my side, two like really small things. One is that in France, this benefit is not known as CAF, like most regular people refer to it as APL. So when you're reading announcements for like places to rent and stuff, it will usually be mentioned as APL. So I mean, keep that in mind. And a lot of places that are renting to students, they will mention whether it's APL eligible or not. And if not, like when you're renting, you should ask your landlord whether the place is APL eligible. And in fact, I mean, that should be one of your criteria for choosing a place to stay, I think, whether it's APL eligible or not. And the second thing is, if you do get confused about things and you don't know how things work, there is a student help desk at Cité Universitaire. I think during the rentrée period, you know, when students come in, so I think it's between September and November, something like that. So you can go to them with your application and with your laptop and be like, you know, what do I do, and they will help you. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you guys for sharing your valuable advice. I think today's session was very, very informative, and this is one topic that no matter what subject the student is studying, no matter what their age is, they will be able to apply for this, and they will be going through this procedure. For all the viewers who are watching in, please remember that although during the pandemic we still don't have any confirmation on when the visa offices might open up and your Campus France offices are closed physically, we are still working by distance, which means if you contact us by email or you contact us by phone, you can reach your nearest Campus France office. If you have any questions, we encourage you to do that, and we'll be able to elaborate a little bit more if you have any questions. So that's it from me. Thank you to our viewers, and thank you to Kathy. Thank you, Anupurba.
Right.
Yes, thank you for coming on Skype. From all of us at the French Institute in India and Campus France, have a wonderful evening.